She said we should take a break, mid-aisle, next to oat milk, like she was choosing a new flavor. I thought she needed space. She meant options. She disappeared for a mental reset. I gave her one. From the apartment, the shared finances, and every auto-pay system we'd built together. She came back refreshed, but unprepared. Because when someone asks for a break, they don't always expect you to actually take one. We were 4 years in. Not a whirlwind romance, just structured comfort. We split bills, synced calendars, shared toothbrush drawers. It wasn't passionate, but it was steady, predictable. That's why I didn't flinch when she said she needed space. I assumed it was stress or burnout, maybe even depression. I didn't want to smother her with questions, so I let her go. But the signs weren't subtle. Within days, her email changed on our joint utilities. Our Netflix queue got wiped. She was still logged into my Spotify, just from a new city. Her gym membership was still on my card. Our joint account was still half hers. That's when I realized. She didn't step away. She stepped out and left me holding the structure. The word break didn't hurt as much as where she said it. Middle of the grocery aisle, next to the dairy section, oat milk in hand, like we were solving the world's biggest crisis. I asked if she wanted almond or oat. She said, "Actually, I think we need a break." Just like that. No build-up. No fight. She dropped it between price tags and shopping carts like she was switching brands. I didn't answer right away. I stood there, oat milk sweating in my hand, wondering if I heard it right. She kept walking, like I'd catch up. Later that night, she packed a small duffel bag. Not her real luggage, just enough to suggest a long weekend, not an exit. She left the heavy stuff behind. Her books, her coat, her toothbrush. A decoy, a breadcrumb, a test. I made dinner for two anyway. Chicken and rice. Simple. Something familiar. I ate alone while her portion cooled into silence. She didn't say where she was going, just that she needed some time to breathe. I said okay. I didn't ask when she'd be back. Not because I didn't care. Because I knew that if I asked, it would sound like control. And right now, anything that resembled control was the enemy. At first, I clung to the idea that this was mature. That we were just decompressing. Taking healthy space. Like all those articles said. But the signs came quick and cold. Our shared playlist on Spotify got renamed. All the songs we added over the years, road trip music, rainy Sunday tracks, vanished. In their place, a single playlist titled Alignment. I laughed at first, thought it was ironic. But it wasn't a joke. Our Netflix profile, Us, got deleted. The one with all our watched series, our guilty pleasure reality shows. Gone. She still hadn't officially moved out, but emotionally? She had subcontracted the job months ago. Now I was just watching the logistics catch up. I stared at the empty side of the bed. Not just empty, but erased. Her pillow gone. The scent on her hoodie? Faded. Even her charger was missing. That's when I realized she didn't forget it. She just didn't plan to return soon enough to need it. I was the one still in the relationship. She was already in the after. I hadn't been left. I'd been slowly offloaded, with soft language, curated kindness, and the illusion of pause. I lay there that night and felt something worse than heartbreak. I felt irrelevant. And relevance, I realized, had been the one thing holding this whole performance together. The morning after she left, I woke up to silence. No texts, no updates. Just her pillow-shaped dent in the bed and the faint smell of coconut shampoo. I got up, made coffee, and stared at the 2 mugs out of habit. I put one back. An hour later, the first message came in. Not from her. From Instagram. A tag. She'd posted a photo of herself, morning light, yoga mat, filter on soft glow. The caption read, "Sometimes distance is the only way to reconnect. Dove." I blinked at it. Reconnect with what? We hadn't fought. We hadn't screamed. She just paused the tape, mid-sentence, and walked off set like we were rehearsing, not living. The second message came from her. A forwarded article. Why taking breaks can strengthen relationships. She added, "Just wanted you to know this isn't a bad thing. This is healthy. Healthy. Like kale. Like turmeric shots. Like something you tolerate because it's good for you. Even if it makes you gag." I didn't reply. She didn't notice. Or she didn't care. Or maybe, and this was worse, she expected it. Like silence was now part of the process too. Step 1, step back. Step 2, post about it. Step 3, don't expect feedback. By the end of the day, a few mutual friends had texted me. "How are you holding up? Proud of you both for taking space. That takes maturity. Are you getting enough rest? Their tone was gentle, curated, safe. No one asked what happened. No one asked if I wanted this. They were just resharing the company memo, the one she clearly sent out first. She was winning the PR war. I was still waiting for a debrief. The following week, she doubled down. More stories. Photos at cafes, smiling over lattes with captions like, "Choosing me," and "Alignment is power." And my favorite, the one that genuinely made me laugh, a reposted tweet that read, "If he doesn't let you breathe, he's not your partner, he's your prison." I had given her nothing but space. I hadn't called, hadn't asked for details. I was, by all definitions, letting her breathe. But the narrative wasn't built for nuance. It was built for applause, for the likes, for the subtle implication that she'd escaped something suffocating. And me? I was still here, still covering her gym fees, still responsible for the apartment, still pretending this was all some version of emotional Pilates. Stretch. Hold. Breathe. Don't scream. Don't reply. Don't break the illusion. Because once you do, you become the villain in someone else's growth arc. So I didn't say a word. Not to her. Not to them. I just added a new note to my phone. Space isn't always distance. Sometimes it's a curtain. To change behind. Privately. While you're still watching. Her cousin texted me late one night. We weren't especially close, but we'd spent enough Thanksgivings and birthdays around the same tables to earn a mutual nod of familiarity. He wrote, "Hey, just wanted to check in. I think she's confused. Don't give up just yet." At first, I read it twice, unsure what I was seeing. Was this a lifeline? A breadcrumb? An insider's wink that maybe, just maybe, she wasn't as certain as she looked in her curated, softly lit Instagram posts? I took the bait. Texted back. "So this isn't permanent." 3 dots. Typing. Then nothing. 10 minutes later. "I mean, I don't know anything for sure. She just said she needed time. You know how she gets." The walk back was immediate. The tone now neutral. Non-committal. Like he realized he'd veered off script. I didn't reply. I just stared at the thread. Noticed that above our messages sat his most recent comment under her latest post. "Proud of you for choosing you." And there it was. The script. The same phrase everyone had used. Different emojis, same applause. Different people, same chorus. I wasn't being given a second chance. I was being given a sound check. To see if I was still in tune with the narrative. The thing about false allies is, they don't lie to hurt you. They lie to avoid discomfort. They choose neutrality that looks like compassion. But really, it's cowardice with a kind voice. And I got it. I wasn't the one posting. I wasn't the story they saw. I was the silence. The one who could still be the problem if the optics shifted. It didn't matter that I was still paying for our shared storage unit. Didn't matter that her phone was still under my plan. None of that was visible. What they saw was a woman doing the work. Healing. Softening. Posing beside matcha lattes with cryptic quotes about freedom. And I was the off-screen shadow. The one she'd grown past. It's easier to believe a pretty caption than a quiet man. Easier to repost than to ask real questions. Easier to say you got this than to ask what really happened. I deleted the text thread. Not out of anger. But because I didn't need soft lies disguised as kindness. And I didn't need to be the secret counter-narrative someone whispered in DMs. I was done hoping for someone to break ranks. Because in their world, the truth wasn't valuable. Only the tone was. It started with a ping. Monday morning, 7:42 a.m. An email notification from the leasing portal. Your automatic rent payment failed to process. That didn't make sense. The account had more than enough in it. We'd set it up together 2 years ago, split evenly, recurring, seamless. I logged in. Her name was gone. Removed from the lease portal. No note. No alert. No transition of responsibility. Just gone. At first, I assumed it was a glitch. A site update. A clerical error. But then I checked the utilities. Water bill. Account now listed under a new email. Electricity. Auto pay disabled. Internet. Username changed. Hers. Removed. It wasn't accidental. It was meticulous. She hadn't closed anything. She hadn't transferred liability. She had unlinked herself from the frame, like cutting out a face from a group photo. Quiet. Clean. Professional. But here's the thing. She didn't terminate anything. She just removed her fingerprints. And left the mess to me. The shared credit card was next. I checked the app. She hadn't made any new purchases. But her rewards number, the one tied to flight points and coffee perks, had been unlinked. Not sabotaged. Just unassigned. as if to say, "Thanks, I'm done here." And that's when it clicked. This wasn't a break. It was a business exit, a soft resignation from all responsibilities without the courtesy of a notice period. No awkward conversation. No keys dropped in an envelope. Just a digital shedding of skin. And she'd left me holding the skeleton. I reread our last texts. The one where she sent that "taking space is healthy" article. The one where she asked if I'd water her plants while she was away. It was never mutual. It was never uncertain. She had a plan. I remembered once, months ago, she told me how proud she was of her clean transitions. How she didn't believe in messy endings. I thought she was talking about friendships. Turns out, she was talking about people like me. People she could slowly ghost while keeping the moral high ground. People who'd pay the last bill, carry the weight, and still be called kind for doing it. I wasn't angry. Not yet. I was stunned by the precision. It wasn't dramatic. There was no yelling. No slamming doors. Just a cold withdrawal of presence and responsibility. As if her part in this play had ended and no one had informed me we were closing the show. She hadn't left me. She had phased me out, one login at a time. And I, like a loyal admin, had let her. Until now. The memory hit me while scrolling aimlessly through old texts, hoping to find something. A missed sign, a warning I'd ignored. Her ex-roommate had said something a year ago. We were at a birthday party. Slightly drunk, slightly bored, standing near the dessert table. She leaned in, wine in hand, and said, "Just so you know, she never leaves a lease until the next one's lined up." I remember laughing, brushing it off as bitterness. They'd stopped speaking a few months prior, supposedly over different energies. I assumed it was drama. Now, I realized it was data. Back then, my girlfriend said she was protecting her peace. That the roommate had been too negative, too clingy, too unhealed. It all sounded legitimate. She said it with such calm, practiced language. You couldn't argue with someone that serene. You'd feel like the crazy one just for asking follow-up questions. That roommate is completely gone now. Blocked. Erased. No mutuals, no trail. Same as what was now happening to me. Different script. Same ending. And the scariest part? It didn't look like a pattern from the inside. It looked like her healing. Her alignment. Her growth. That's how she always framed it. Not detachment, ascension. Not avoidance, clarity. Not erasure, self-care. I started remembering other stories she told me. Old friends she'd cut off. Jobs she'd left. The one ex who just didn't get it. She never described fallouts. Only transitions. I was never meant to be permanent. I was a phase she needed to outgrow. And she'd been preparing the narrative long before the oat milk aisle. I remembered a Sunday afternoon, maybe 6 months before the break. We were watching TV, and she suddenly asked if I believed people could release someone with love. I said yes. She smiled like I passed a test. I didn't realize she meant me. Because to her, kindness wasn't about presence. It was about politeness while leaving. A soft fade out. A gentle cut. An ethical exit, dressed in Instagram poetry and therapy buzzwords. And I'd bought it. Because I wanted to believe in the version of her I had fallen for, not the strategist she'd quietly become. She wasn't evil. She was efficient. And I wasn't heartbroken. I was embarrassed. Embarrassed to realize I'd been the last to know the relationship ended. And worse, that it ended months before I noticed. While I was still booking dinner reservations, she was running simulations on how to erase me cleanly. And now that I'd seen the blueprint, I couldn't unsee it. She didn't explode relationships. She evacuated them. Silently. Systematically. And I had finally caught up, just in time to close the exit door behind her. The text came on a Thursday. Short. Casual. No greeting, no build-up. "Hey, if you have time this weekend, can you drop off my kitchen stuff? I'll be at my new place." Just like that. Not a question. Not a request. An instruction disguised as an afterthought. I read it 3 times. Then checked the time. 8:14 a.m. She'd probably sent it with her morning coffee, in the same breath she used to scroll through reels about soft girl energy and reset routines. No address. No thank you. Just expectation. I didn't reply right away. Instead, I opened the lease again. I'd almost forgotten. My name, the only one listed as guarantor. Utilities, in my name. Wi-Fi, still billed to my card. Our joint bank account, still mine, just with half of it surgically extracted 2 weeks ago. She had moved out emotionally, physically, and now logistically. But without closing anything. She assumed I'd wrap it all up neatly for her. Because that's what I'd always done. filled in gaps, picked up slack. Smooth transitions she never fully acknowledged. I went into the kitchen, opened drawers like I was touring someone else's apartment. Mugs I didn't choose. A blender I never used. That chipped bowl she insisted had personality. I started packing, not out of kindness, out of clarity. For the first time since she left, I felt a shift. Not emotional, logistical. This wasn't heartbreak anymore. This was inventory. I boxed everything with care, not because I missed her, but because I wanted it done. Closure wasn't a conversation. It was a sealed box labeled kitchen. I stopped at her bookshelf. The one she always said was shared. Half the books were mine. The ones with notes in the margins. The ones I bought for both of us to discuss. I left them all because I didn't want the discussions anymore. I wanted quiet. Back on my phone, I typed out a message. Paused. Deleted it. I didn't know her confirmation. She didn't ask for one. We were perfectly aligned in that way now, both avoiding direct language in favor of transactions. This was no longer about heartbreak. It was logistics masked as emotion. And she'd made it clear, I was not her partner. I was her former service provider. Her final unpaid intern, filing the last pieces of her past into boxes while she meditated in her new space. So I didn't ask what her new place looked like. Didn't ask who helped her move in. Didn't ask who made her coffee that morning. I just kept taping up the sides, box after box, until everything she left behind fit into something I could lift, something I could leave. And in doing that, I realized I wasn't grieving. I was organizing. And that's not love. That's exit prep. Sunday came with an unexpected invite. A group text from mutual friends. Brunch. Same place we used to go as couples, when her hand still found mine beneath the table and we argued about who got the last mimosa. The message read, would be nice to see everyone. No pressure. No mention of her. But I knew. I almost didn't go. Then I did. Out of curiosity more than loyalty. I needed to see how far the gap had stretched. I arrived 10 minutes late. She was already there, sitting in the sun, surrounded by clinking glasses and easy laughter. Hair pinned up. New outfit. New glow. She looked light, like someone who'd completed a cleanse, not just of sugar or alcohol, but of context. She was talking about dating again. I caught the end of a sentence. It just feels like I can breathe now. Like I'm not tiptoeing around anyone's moods. They all nodded. Someone clinked their glass. Another said, you deserve that. I took the last empty seat. No one made room. Just a glance, a half smile, and back to their eggs. One friend, the one who used to double date with us, leaned over and asked how I was doing. I said, freeing up space. He smiled like I was healing. I wasn't. I was observing. What struck me most wasn't her performance. It was their reaction, their eagerness to endorse her narrative without pause, as if nuance was too messy for brunch. She didn't speak to me directly. Didn't need to. Everything she said was loud enough to be overheard. She joked about people who confuse support with control. Said she'd finally learned the difference. They laughed, nodded, agreed. I was no longer a person in that group. I was a reference, a case study, the example they needed to validate their own self-work slogans. No one asked me for my version. No one cared what was real. What mattered was who posted first, who controlled the tone. And she'd been running PR since week 1, curating captions, tagging therapists, quoting podcasts about boundaries. Meanwhile, I was still paying for the Spotify family plan. I didn't finish my food, didn't make a scene. I just watched, counted how many times they said growth. It was 6. By the end, someone asked if we'd ever get back together. She laughed, said, I think some things are better as lessons than as homes. They all loved that one. Big reaction. More clinks. More nods. I stood up, said I had to go. No one asked where. No hugs. No, let's catch up. I walked out into the street and didn't look back. She had framed the story so well. All I could do was walk out of it. Let her have the spotlight. Because when someone needs applause that badly, you stop competing. You just let the show end without you. That night, I couldn't sleep. Something about the brunch, the way they looked through me, the way she recited her lines, left a film I couldn't wash off. So I got up, turned on my laptop, and started logging in. First stop, the bank. Joint account, still active. Still showing monthly subscriptions, groceries, the gym. Her gym. I opened each tab like a drawer full of dust. Clicked remove user. Then close. Then transfer remaining funds. No hesitation. No message. Just clicks. Just clarity. Next, the lease portal. The co-tenant removal she initiated weeks ago had left a mess. Open balances, misrouted notices. I cleaned it up. Removed her forwarding address from the profile. Changed the security questions. Updated the contact email. Mine only. Spotify. We had a family plan. I checked the member list. Her profile photo, still there. Still listening to the same curated playlist that I had made. Remove. Done. Netflix. Gone already. She deleted our shared Us profile. Of course she had. Phone plan, trickier. She was still under my account, grandfathered in. Saving money, of course. I canceled her line. Paid the early termination fee. Considered it a tuition bill. Each step wasn't revenge. It wasn't even spite. It was administrative closure. For weeks, I'd been walking around the skeleton of a shared life. Still holding the keys. Still covering the utilities. Still available, by accident. Not anymore. I went through our shared expense spreadsheet. The one we used to track bills, trips, restaurants. Rows and rows of quiet cooperation. Deleted it. Her Amazon login gone. Her Apple ID, still attached to my family cloud, uninvited. And then the small things. The petty ones. The ones that don't matter until they suddenly do. The shared Google Calendar. Unsubscribed. The bookmarked Airbnb list we made for future trips. Erased. The shared photo album of our 2022 road trip. Archived. Not to punish. To reset. I didn't send her a list. Didn't warn her. Because warnings imply negotiation. And we were long past that. She'd wanted space. She said she needed clarity. I gave her both in full. Financial space. Emotional clarity. Digital silence. I didn't block her. I just vanished from the frame she used to paint her story. No more passive presence. No more quiet compliance. Just absence. And in that absence, I found something she hadn't expected me to keep. Control. Not over her. Over myself. Over the terms of my own closure. It was never a break. It was a test. And I finally stopped failing it. I packed her things with the same precision she used to pack for trips. Tidy, efficient, clinical. A single medium-sized storage bin. Not too heavy, not too sentimental. Just enough to say, this is what's left of you here. No letter. No keepsake. No dramatic gesture. She hadn't earned a farewell. She'd long since cashed out of anything requiring emotion. I drove across town in the early afternoon. Her new place wasn't hard to find. It had been tagged in 2 of her posts already. Big windows, minimalist decor, those recycled glass soap dispensers everyone on Instagram loves. She was building an aesthetic, not a home. I didn't knock. Didn't ring. Didn't even park fully. I set the bin down gently on the welcome mat. It was weatherproof, sealed, labeled. Kitchen, books, charger. That was it. 3 items. No memories. Just logistics. I snapped a photo, not to threaten, not to post, but to protect myself. Proof of delivery. In case she ever claimed I kept her things out of spite. I got back in the car, pulled out my phone, and sent a Venmo request. Just one. For her portion of last month's utilities. Nothing else. No tax on my emotional labor. Just the unpaid invoice she'd quietly stepped over. 10 minutes later. Declined. No comment. Just the red minus sign. A minute after that, a text. Wow. No punctuation. No context. Just that. I didn't reply. Not because I didn't know what to say, but because that single word told me everything. She wasn't surprised by what I did. She was surprised that I did it. Because people like her count on you staying gentle, staying quiet, staying available, just in case they circle back for closure or for clout. But I was out. Not in rage. Not in grief. In precision. Every part of this had been clean. Clinical. Just like her exit. Some debts get paid with words. Others, with silence. This one, it had already been paid, in canceled subscriptions, changed passwords, deleted playlists. She could keep the captions. The brunch claps. The filtered story arc about letting go. I didn't need to defend myself anymore. Because once you've left the story, the narrator can't rewrite your chapter. As I pulled away, I looked once in the rearview mirror. Not at her window. Just at the bin. Sitting there, quietly. Like the final page of a book she'd pretended to finish. But I knew better. She didn't close the book. She just stopped reading when it stopped serving her reflection. And now, she wasn't the one left unread. I was. Unread. Unbothered. Unattached. Weeks passed. The silence didn't feel like absence anymore. It felt like insulation. No more surprise texts. No more bank alerts. No more curated captions reaching me secondhand through mutual friends. They faded too. Not dramatically, just gradually. Brunches stopped including me. Group chats slowed. Photos stopped being tagged. The ecosystem recalibrated. Without me. At first, I wondered if they thought I was bitter. If they bought into the narrative she laid out so cleanly. Just a guy who couldn't handle her growth. Too attached to the past. But eventually, I stopped wondering. Because it didn't matter. They were spectators. And I was done performing. The apartment, mine now. Clean. Quiet. Echoes only when I wanted them. Her stuff? Gone. Bills. Paid on time. Spotify? Mine again, finally playing music I actually wanted to hear. I'd replaced the mugs. Rearranged the bookshelf. Started buying food I didn't have to negotiate. At night, I read. Or watched movies without commentary. And slept diagonally in bed. Because I could. There was no dramatic moving on. No new partner. No declarations. Just continuation. My own rhythm. Slower, sharper, quieter. She popped up once. Liked an old photo of us at a hiking trail. Caption, 4 miles in, still arguing over granola bars. It had been posted a year before the break. The like was recent. I didn't flinch. Didn't take the bait. Didn't wonder what it meant. Because I'd already processed it. That like wasn't a message. It was a reflex. A moment of curiosity, or nostalgia, or boredom. But not connection. I didn't respond. Not because I was holding a grudge. But because she no longer had access. Not to my accounts. Not to my space. Not to my emotions. She had asked for a break. I gave her one. Comprehensive. And in doing so, I realized something she probably never anticipated. I was never hers to pause. That's the trick. When someone asks for space, they assume you'll wait in it. Hold still. Keep the shape of them in your life, just in case. But I didn't freeze. I didn't linger. I didn't wait for clarity she never planned to offer. I moved. Quietly. Cleanly. Like she had. Only difference? I didn't need an audience for it. If someone asks for space and disappears, do they deserve to be surprised when you finally use it?